In the history of recorded music, there are artists whose faces define eras, and then there are musicians whose sound defines them. You may not recognize his name immediately, you may not recognize his face, even with the legendary beard. But you have heard him on the radio, on vinyl, on cassette, on CD, on streaming playlists spanning 5 decades. His bass lines have supported some of the most iconic voices in modern music. Quietly, musically, flawlessly. This is the story of Leland Sklar, the session bass legend whose fingerprints are on more than 2,000 albums, shaping the sound of popular music from the inside out. Before we continue, subscribe now, like this video, comment, and share. Leland Bruce Sklar was born on May 28, 1947 in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Not into fame, not into the music business, just into music. When Sklar was still a child, his family relocated to Southern California, a move that would unknowingly place him at the epicenter of one of the most influential music scenes in American history. At just 5 years old, Sklar began studying piano. This early exposure wasn't about bass lines or grooves, it was about harmony, melody, and musical structure. Piano taught him how chords work, how songs move, and how emotions are built through progression rather than flash. Long before he ever touched a bass guitar, Sklar was already thinking like a composer. As the 1950s and 1960s unfolded, rock and roll exploded into American culture. The Beatles, Motown, folk revival, singer-songwriters. Young musicians everywhere were choosing instruments, finding their voice, chasing sound. For Sklar, the bass didn't arrive as a childhood dream. It arrived as a musical solution. Like many bassists of his generation, Sklar didn't start on bass because he wanted attention. He started because bands needed bass players. While studying at California State University, Northridge, Sklar immersed himself in formal music education. Classical ensembles, jazz groups, orchestral settings. He played upright bass before electric. This mattered. Upright bass teaches patience, time, note length, responsibility. It teaches you that the bass is not about ego, it's about support. During his university years, Sklar began playing with a tight-knit group of musicians who would later become legends in their own right. Among them was a young singer-songwriter named James Taylor. At the time, no one knew what that connection would become. In the late 1960s, James Taylor was emerging as one of the defining voices of the singer-songwriter movement. When Taylor needed musicians who could listen, support, and elevate his songs without overwhelming them, Leland Sklar was the perfect fit. Sklar joined Taylor's band, initially unsure if this would be a temporary gig or a lifelong path. It became both. As James Taylor's career took off in the early 1970s, so did Sklar's reputation. Producers noticed something immediately. He didn't overplay. He didn't chase attention. He made songs feel finished. This is the quality that separates good bassists from indispensable ones. By the early 1970s, Sklar became part of an informal but powerful collective of musicians known as the Section. This group included Russ Kunkel, drums, Danny Korchmar, guitar, Craig Dorge, keys, and Leland Sklar on bass. Much like the Wrecking Crew before them, the Section became the backbone of countless recordings, particularly for artists signed to Asylum Records. They weren't marketed. They weren't credited as stars. They were trusted. Albums by Jackson Browne, Carole King, Linda Ronstadt, James Taylor, and many others leaned heavily on this rhythm section's chemistry. Sklar's bass became the invisible spine of an entire era. What made Leland Sklar so effective wasn't technical showmanship. It was musical intelligence. His bass lines are deeply harmonic. Instead of relying solely on root notes, Sklar weaves lines using thirds, fifths, passing tones, subtle chromatic movement. On songs like You've Got a Friend or Running on Empty, his bass doesn't compete with the melody. It guides it. This approach comes directly from his early piano training. Sklar doesn't think like a bassist reacting to chords. He thinks like a musician moving through them. Producers didn't call Sklar back just because he played the right notes. They called him because he played them on time. Perfect time. Whether locking with Russ Kunkel's laid-back groove or navigating more pop-driven sessions, Sklar's internal clock was unbreakable. On tracks like Phil Collins' In the Air Tonight, his restraint becomes the groove itself. The space matters. The silence matters. The note placement matters. Sklar understands that rhythm is emotional, not mathematical. What truly defines Sklar's playing is feel. His dynamics shift with the song's emotional arc. Verses breathe. Choruses expand. Bridges tell a story. Many of his most iconic bass parts are simple on paper, but impossible to replace. That's because they're not about notes. They're about intent. Leland Sklar's tone is inseparable from his instruments. Most famous among them is the legendary Frankenstein bass, a precision bass body, a jazz bass neck, mandolin fret wire. It wasn't designed for aesthetics. It was designed for feel. Sklar has used this bass on hundreds of recordings since the early 1970s. In later years, he embraced modern instruments as well. Dingwall Custom 5 Strings, Warwick Star Bass 2, euphonic audio amplification. Yet no matter the gear, the sound remains unmistakably Sklar. Beyond the studio, Sklar became a touring giant. He played extensively with James Taylor, Phil Collins, Toto, Hall and Oates, Rod Stewart, Willie Nelson. In the 2000s, he joined Toto's Falling in Between tour, proving his adaptability across genres and generations. In 2018, members of the section reunited under a new name, the Immediate Family. What started as nostalgia became a celebration of musical friendship, trust, and legacy. For Sklar, it wasn't about looking back. It was about continuing to play together. During the COVID-19 pandemic, Sklar did something unexpected. He started a YouTube channel. From his home studio, he broke down iconic bass lines from his career, explaining not just what he played, but why. The channel quickly grew, attracting musicians worldwide. Not because of algorithms, because of wisdom. Leland Sklar has been credited on over 2,000 albums, a number confirmed through AllMusic, Discogs, and industry interviews. Pop, rock, folk, country, jazz, soundtracks. He didn't chase legacy. He built it, one song at a time. Leland Sklar reminds us that music isn't only made by stars. It's made by listeners, by supporters, by musicians who understand that the strongest voice in a song is sometimes the quietest one. His bass didn't shout. It held everything together. And that is why, even if you don't know his name, you know his sound. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. See you in the next video.